This one is a marathon, and I am so grateful for the time, the whole 3 hours that Amanda Sage donated to this podcast. This is Jake Coburn, and this is another episode of the Quarantine Sessions podcast, which are all conversations that I've recorded live through Instagram with some of the most inspired and visionary friends that I have. And this conversation is with Amanda Sage. Amanda Sage is a phenomenal visionary artist and an incontestable force in the emergence of visionary culture. And she's also a great teacher and one of my teachers, and I've had the privilege of studying with her at the Tori Superiori workshop in Italy, which she has taught at for many years. Amanda has helped foster the creativity of legions of artists and is a true leader in that way by helping to create a path that other artists can walk upon. And she's really helped guide the lives of many blossoming young painters. And she's also been establishing a really cool cross-continental online networking platform called the Vision Train, which is a 24/7 artist hangout, which is uniting visionary minds across the globe who might be isolated in lockdown but can still come together and share their work and create together and inspire each other. And I've hung out there a number of times and it's been great. And overall, this was a really inspiring conversation. I got off the phone with Amanda feeling charged up and inspired and just wanting to create art. And I hope that you feel the same way after listening to this. Without further ado, here is Amanda Sage.
So much better.
All right, there we go.
Now I can hear you. I was like, uh-oh, how are we going to do this?
Disturbance in the force. I feel like, this has been a thing with this process. It's been a little bit experimental, and there's been a bit of technical glitches, but
hey,
it is what it is.
It's a freaking miracle. You're in Bali
It's a
and I'm in
miracle.
Colorado.
I know. Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about, for sure. So you're at one of your many homes in Colorado in your studio.
Yeah, I am.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
This is the painting
And
that I started on.
oh yeah, that you were jamming on that at the Earth Day thing, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty funny because I kind of didn't get the memo that we were supposed to be painting visions of the new Earth, and I'm working on this painting that it's like it's a little bit dark, you know. So everybody was rocking up with their like angelic visions of planetary unity, and I'm kind of like painting this like fiery skull painting.
I didn't get the memo either that we were supposed to be doing specific images for that, I guess. I maybe I forgot, but I I started a painting for Earth Day. Like that's what, yeah. But I think it's part of it. Hey, like we're going through like this huge transformation, which has a lot to do with like burning and like
Absolutely.
it's like a shedding of a skin. It's a huge thing that's happening now, and we need to not turn away from that. Not only turn towards the opportunity, we need to like feel the grief,
Mm-hmm.
because it's real. Like it's happening right now, and maybe some of us are, you know, in positions where we're not as affected, but everybody is affected, and some are extremely affected. There's so much uncertainty right now. And so I think you were coming in with a painting like that, the work that you were coming in with is totally important.
Yeah. And it's not like I feel like the way I approach art is I just create something, and whatever kind of flows through naturally, I go with that. I don't try to mentalize it too much and try to come up with ideas in my mind before approaching it. So if it appears dark, I'm not trying to like create something dark. That's just what comes through naturally, you know?
Yeah, we gotta work with that. You know, what's the voice that wants to come through us? I think what's important is like, what's your intention?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it can be discovered. It can be a thing too of like, well, I don't know exactly what my intention is. I don't have a specific prayer. But do you want to be of service? That's a good question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or are you just like masturbating over in the corner?
No, I want to be of service, Amanda. Yeah. I've I've really felt since this whole kind of crisis thing has come about a greater impulse to be of service, actually.
Yeah.
It feels like now the people that are in a position to be able to be guides of sorts are really being called to put as much energy forward into trying to lead people into a new vision as possible. You know, and I've really noticed that with you too. You seem to be on fire and just doing so much and like so many live streams and like online classes and everything. And you've really been just activated and of service in this time.
Yeah, I'm feeling it strong. I've been painting tidal waves for like the past year. I mean, that's like one that
Wow.
that was the most recent one that started. But I felt when this whole thing became really, I realized this was like a global thing that we were going through. I felt like a huge call to action to
Mm.
help unite the artists that I have met, in my life, and the tribe that's kind of come through the last decade of teaching and
Mm-hmm.
traveling to festivals and being a part of this kind of like global visionary art movement, and so, and I felt this like, well, okay, from the people that have worked with me directly already, I had all these Facebook groups already for organizing workshops and stuff. So I kind of I merged them all finally, or a lot, as many as I had, and then was like, hey guys, what do you think? Should we start a jam? And we're all over the world. This movement's all over the world. And let's see if we can keep it open. So that's been like a major focus of mine to do that. And now it's rolling, now it's like this space that never goes dark. It's been
Cool.
over a month. And then, yeah, with online workshops, just getting going with that, because it's been something I've wanted to do for years, but I've been like too involved and too kind of like, man, I'm a weaver, weaving lots of webs of exciting, interesting things to me, and it seems to keep unfolding. So it's like when you go and teach a workshop somewhere and it works out and it's great, then you get invited back and you want to go back. Like I do, I genuinely want to go to all these places, like Bali, for an example. I
Yeah.
haven't been back to Bali since freaking 2006. And
Oh, well.
I used to live in Bali like over like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
And
I heard about that.
yeah. Anyway, lots of stories.
No, I'm really like we can go down a bunch of different paths based on what you're saying. I'm really interested in hearing about your experiences in Bali. I think that when I was first wanting to go to Bali, I had heard about you living here and that it was a big influence on your development and path, and also Luke Brown and Mark Lee, all people that I look up to and consider role models of sorts. So I was really interested in exploring this place and what kind of magic it held for me here. But I also heard that you were like engaged to a Balinese prince at one point or something. Is that true?
Yeah.
Really? So what's the story with that?
I don't know.
I'm not surprised, but
Well, I don't know how much of the story I feel like telling on like this, but I mean, maybe I'll tell it in a book someday.
okay.
Um, but yeah, uh, very, very, very influential in my kind of like, I guess, awareness around magic and like the thinning of the veils and how thin they can be. Bali blew my mind, and it's not just like the place, but the people, the way they live, the art, and how art. There's no word for art in Balinese language. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Because
Yeah, wow.
everybody like everybody's an artist. Because Bali is a place, the religion and the that's there. It's only on that island, like that.
Yeah.
And it's something that's very unique to that place. It's the Bali Hindu Buddhist. So there's an effect and an influence from Hinduism and Buddhism, but it's also Balinese, like original Balinese, practice and spirituality. And so there's a really interesting magical aspect to it, that's very, transcendental, deep. What are all the words? I mean, I just felt so connected there and so at home in a way, like with there was a sacredness, and then also the way the villages, the way the compounds and the banjars and there was some aspect of it that I felt was really that I missed in growing up the way I grew up, though I'm very grateful to how I was raised and my parents, what opportunities they gave me and took me, didn't put me in the system. I really saw there, all the generations living together, and and how everybody was an artist. That inspired me so much. Like every single village there has a different craft, and you're, like it just blew my mind, like I lived in a wood carving village near Kuning, which is on the other side of my, huh?
Yeah, I know New Kuning.
Yeah. And this is like 96, 97, 98,
Wow.
99, like all in that time. I spent a lot of time there, and I used to produce batiks, and with my designs, I had a clothing line when in like 99, around before, 97 to 99 or something. I had a clothing line, and also made tapestries, and would export them to the US and to Europe and sell them. It was kind of like a little, and this is before I even learned how to paint.
Wow.
And I also illustrated an herbal book for Robin Lim. Do you know Bhumi Sehat is a birthing
Yeah,
paint?
I know Bhumi Sehat, yeah.
So before it was Bhumi Sehat, it was Anak Bahaz, I'm forgetting the name, is Happy Child Foundation or something. And this is before there was a clinic. And I went there and supported her and her initiatives. There was this group from Earthwatch that came to do work on this book project with her. And I ended up somehow, I was like 19 years old, or I think 18 years old. And I had a knack for drawing, but I hadn't studied painting yet. And
that was before you went to Vienna then.
It was before I went to Vienna. It was straight out of high
Wow.
school. I went to Bali.
Wow.
And it was like, well, we need illustrations. Who could illustrate this? And I was like, sounds like fun. And I volunteered to do that. It was all volunteer service that I was there for. And so that ended up becoming one of my jobs. And I also ended up becoming a transport driver for the Yayasan. And driving in Bali is freaking insane.
It's pretty crazy, yeah. It's fun.
It's fun. I know. I learned so much because I was driving this little like beat up Daihatsu van that you drive on the right side of the road. No, the left side, right? And
yeah, the other side.
And it's just chaos, but right? You always have to have one hand on the horn, and you got to be ready to just for anything, chickens, dogs, processions, like anything. And I had so much fun. And of course I learned Indonesian, which I suck at now because I haven't practiced, but I could speak pretty well. And me and all the other transport drivers, I was like this 18-year-old American girl, like driving around, and I was kind of fearless. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have anything, you know. There
Wow.
And I was doing all these drives for Earthwatch. So I went to the airport all the time to pick people up, and we would drive around, and I was going around with all these shaman kind of like to find plants for this herbal book. So it was an herbal book focused on childbirth, traditional uses of herbs and roots in childbirth from Bali.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They have so much tradition and knowledge around childbirth too, and their practices around it are really fascinating. Like I think they leave the placenta on for like 30 days or something, and then afterwards they plant a tree from it. So it's like, you know, this cycle of continuing life. They just have a lot of like beautiful ceremony around the birth of every person that really treats every person that comes into the world as sacred. And there's like a whole ceremony and ritual around that, which is something I think we kind of lack in the West. There's a lot that, I mean, the Balinese are just amazing and just
How,
like completely tuned in.
how long have you lived there now?
I came here for the first time 4 years ago, and I lived here for 6 months 4 years ago, and then I left. I went back to California for about a year and a half, and now I've been here more than 3/4 of the last 2 years. I spent, I think, 4 months outside of Bali in the last 2 years.
I can't wait to come back and visit. My friend Sherry Ray
Yeah.
is there right now. Sherry
Okay.
Ray Russell, she's the one that has Peace Yoga Gallery in downtown LA.
Oh, cool.
My paintings have been exhibited in her place for the past 10 years in downtown LA. And she's in Bali now, and she lives part-time in Bali. It's like one of her heart places as well. I will always consider Bali one of my like homes, always, no matter what. Like, it helped make me who I am today and open me up to, you know, where I am. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, you've had so many of these just magical adventures. Do you just like, do these things just kind of happen to you? Like you're just kind of chosen for these quests and missions? Like to gather plants to create a Balinese book about shamanism?
I don't know. It's odd to me if I like.
Explain me to you, Amanda. or explain you to me, I mean, because
I
I'm just
found
fascinated by that.
I've been in just many different situations that have been interesting, and I've just been curious and said, "Hey, I'll do it." I don't know if it's like unique in some way, but I've definitely seen myself in this role of service, and if I put myself in a mentality also of service, I end up in really, really interesting circles with interesting opportunities. That's how I ended up in Vienna.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up in Bali, is because I volunteered.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's also that curiosity with fearlessness. You know, like a lot of like people might hear about something like that and there's all kinds of fears or limiting beliefs that come up and they say like I can't do that or that's dangerous or something like that. But you're like, yeah, it's like I trust it's going to be fine. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen. Let's explore that. I think
I'm
that's a
also,
really beautiful way to go through life.
I'm also quite I don't know. I definitely think through things too, to a degree. Like I was like the designated driver in high school for my friends.
Okay.
You know,
Nice.
I make sure that nobody gets hurt to the best of my ability. You know, like, and there's some aspect of my personality that people seem to trust. You know, and I don't know what that is or where it comes from. I care deeply. I
Mm.
don't know if that helps, but I'm also I'm fine with being in the driver's seat. You know, it's interesting to talk about driving and talking about in Bali. It's like, all right, I'm driving. Okay, I'll do it. I can do this. We got this, and we can have fun too. So it's important that you have a party like all along the way, or remember that you're in the eternal, ever-changing party of now. Roman Villigana just got off of like a live kind of like interview, not interview, just presentation conversation with him about the eight steps of synchronization.
Cool. Nice.
Dude, it's all
Let me-
happening like now. It's ridiculous. I'm like, I look at my calendar and I'm like, wait, oh, I guess this can work.
yeah.
We're just
Yeah.
like booking ourselves. I feel like right now it's just flowing from one conversation to the next. And I'm so interested in this live conversation. Like, why should we not be sharing this right now?
It's
Like,
so cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's kind of like an online festival, kind of. You know, it's like all the sort of things that you would have going on at a festival. Like there's this DJ playing, and then you're doing live painting with this artist, and then there's this talk, this like panel or this lecture, this workshop, but it's all through the internet now.
Well, and I think now what's even more awesome is that it can be more accessible to so many people that couldn't it's kind of excessive actually. Like some of the lifestyle that I've lived the past decade and also the lifestyle of this kind of alternative transformational festival world. I mean, you have to kind of like be on
Yeah.
the circuit. You have to figure out a way to like buy plane tickets all over the place, and it's freaking excessive, you know? And so there's an aspect of it that is not sustainable. It's totally ridiculous. It's awesome, right? We're the best time ever. We're like, how many times have you been partying with your friends and you're like, I feel really elitist right now, you know? There's an
Sure.
aspect of that where I'm like, I've been kind of fed up with it. I've seen it for a long time too. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, I've sensed too the opportunity of connecting with a bunch of different tribes, like at this time in history, not knowing how long were the planes going to keep going, you know? I don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is this something that I should be doing? But I'm like, I'm doing it in the name of rallying the tribe, you know, like building the network so that we as a planet, like as a planetary civilization, like that makes the most freaking sense if you ask me, around like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the values of really solutionary thinking, you know, and action, taking responsibility for ourselves, taking responsibility for, you know, our communities. You know, like that's where we need to be and where we need to go, and we need to do that locally, but we also
Mm-hmm.
need to realize that we're globally a community. And so that's one of the reasons why I've been traveling the world as much as I have, and like did the amount of movement as I have, is because I've felt that call, and also like the invitation and the role that I could play within that, because I was given a transmission. I was given a transmission by a great master, and this is in Vienna, right? Multiple masters. I was put in a position of being able of studying and apprenticing and assisting these masters in Vienna. And you know, there was a role, Ernst Fuchs, who I assisted for 10 years. He always dreamt of the school, of building the school, of building an international school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was he had multiple attempts of it, you know, because it included a museum, it included like cultural center, and it included, you know, all of this. And yeah, he did. So I felt that kind of transmission, as well as Lawrence and many other artists, you know, that worked with him. And it's not just his vision, right? But the vision of a school that comes out of the underground, in a sense, that comes out of the what has been oppressed too, an aspect
Mm-hmm.
of it, right? That is not afraid to talk about spirituality, not afraid to talk about psychedelics, not afraid to talk about, you know, and explore the infinite potential of what we are and what we can be, you know. And that the mystery schools, I mean, you can look towards mystery schools, and you know, there's an aspect of that. And so these schools have existed all along, and have not been, maybe like, you know, a lot of them have gone underground. But now is a time when we don't have any more underground, like, come on, the underground is popping up, like mushrooms sprouting everywhere. And that's what we are. That's what the artists are the flowers of the mycelial network. And I believe that everybody is an artist. We all have the potential to flower like that. We all do. It is not a select group of people. And artists have become way too much this kind of like, oh, no, I'm not an artist. How many times have you heard that from somebody? They have that planted in their head somewhere, some point along the way, that they have to, what the definition of what an artist is. Right. And what a definition of an artist is it means, yeah, you need to be a craftsperson. You need to be this, all these things. You need to be a professional. That's like, to me, that's I've gotten really frustrated with that because, or not frustrated, but I've been able to target it. That there's a conditioning little lock there that that a very large amount of the population has. And this is a key thing to unlock for life, for the awareness of life and the beauty, the magic, majesty, the ability to become truly present and make decisions where one's really conscious and present. Like that is accessible through the practice of being an artist. Realizing that you're an artist. And one way to do that is to freaking pick up a pencil. Y'all did it when you were in kindergarten, you know, and start scribbling. What's going to come up is like, oh, that's stupid. Oh, I'm going to judge that. Oh, I don't know. I can't do this. You know, what are all those voices? Where do they come from? Are they real? Who are they? You know, what do you, because see, I am very, it's very clear to me that what it takes is willingness and courage. And Alex Grace told me, like, we had a chat, Alex and Allison, a few nights ago, to catch up on a couple things. And one thing that he said that I wrote down in my book, because if you're not writing down things in your book all the time, all you guys out there, your sketchbooks are your spell books, right? Christopher Ulrich taught us that. And it's super important. Write things down. When you think about them, draw them out. Draw out your vision. And one of the things that Alex said is it takes, creativity takes courage.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I fundamentally believe that every person is an artist, and it's transcending a victim mentality into a creator mentality. Like when we empower ourselves to believe that we are the creator of our lives and our circumstances and our universe and the world that we exist in, that's art in and of itself, even if somebody isn't creating images or creating music or whatever we might define as being an artist, but just playing that role as an active, lucid dreamer in the collective dream that we're sharing, that's artistry to me. And we all have that power. That's inherent in being the kind of in-between animal and God that we are as human beings. We have that God-like potential of being able to manifest things out of nowhere like magic. So yeah, I really feel like right now the world is kind of starving for a vision. And I've talked to a lot of friends who are even professional artists or people that are very creative who feel really blocked in this time because they're grieving a lot, because they're struggling a lot. And I feel like empowering people's creative potential is kind of the most important thing that can be done on the planet right now, because there has to be this sort of like, you know, like a beneficent army of creativity that comes through and can help shape the world in a more positive direction. It feels like we're at this crossroads where we can choose a lot of different paths.
No, we totally are. So what are we going to choose? The Jim Shannon said the artists are painting the signposts for the future. And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you question, well, everybody's an artist. So what are we painting into existence? What are our words? What are we writing? What are we doing? What are we doing with our time? Your time is your gold. And somebody wrote in here, where do those voices come from? And I wanted to address that because I think that's a really, really key thing that we deal with, all of us, every single day, right? Those voices are voices of the personality. And you are not your personality. Question that, like, who am I really? What am I? What am I? You're a mysterious, magical miracle, and you are not Jake Coburn. I am not Amanda Sage. So, and our language, we are constantly possessing things. We are possessing each other and we are possessing ourselves. And so there's some lines of teaching that have given me more language to understanding what these voices are. And they come through my partner, Joe Bob Merritt, and his understanding and teachings that come from the fourth way, specifically through Dr. Bob Gibson and the picture of conditioned man. And he talks about this. He shares this in our workshops. And we're working on sharing it in this manner too. But looking at the personality as being something that is conditioned, right, from birth.
Absolutely.
And there's certain different, experiences that we all go through that are somewhat common that develop these kinds of possessions, like like complaining. That there's the aspect of the personality that's the complainer, and there's the aspect of the personality that sticks up for their rights, and then there's the pleaser, there's the one that believes in authority, then there's the am I missing one? Pleaser, the pleaser, and then there's the I must be different, and then there's you must be different. You should be different. And these are all, they're called the 6 not I's. And I'm just skimming over it right now. It's a very deep study, but it's something that when you recognize that there's actually only 6 of them, and you can consider them demons. They're not I's, but they have an infinite amount of faces. And that's fascinating because, and when you spot one, you can say, oh, there's the complainer. You see Jake Coburn is complaining about something. You'd be like, oh, I can spot that. And I can see that that's not I. It's not I.
Do you know what helps me is kind of imagining those entities as like a little like cartoon character or something in my mind, or something I thought about is like my parents' dog is kind of grumpy, like growls a lot and like barks a lot, and is this tiny little dog who's like feisty, and that it's like I can think about my neuroses as like this little like grumpy feisty dog in my head or something like that, and kind of like, because like when the dog is like grumpy and is like growling, it's like kind of cute and you don't take it so seriously. You're just like, oh, Chewy, like calm down. So it's like whatever pathologies or whatever I might have in my personality, you can kind of look at that the same way, and instead of taking it all seriously and going down that path, you're just like, oh, that's kind of cute, like settle down.
But it's hard when you're possessed, it's hard to see your own possession. So it's very helpful to have a friend or to have friends that can help you remember that you're possessed. And that's tricky because often our possessions trigger each other's possessions.
Yeah, it's like a complementary wounding or something like that. A lot of the time. Yeah, I think people are often attracted to other people whose triggers like complement each other, especially in intimate relationships.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's where it gets really juicy. That's where it goes deep.
For sure.
How far down? Yeah. And aren't they the greatest teachers though?
Yeah. I'm curious, have relationships ever been sort of like distracting from your artwork, or has it ever been conflictual? Have you ever had relationships where you felt like it was getting in the way of your creative?
Okay, there you are. You're back. I
Yeah.
was about to try to move and see where that was an interesting moment that it paused.
Also, hi, Yosef.
Hi, Yosef. Who's Yosef?
He's a friend of mine.
Nice. So wait, we were talking about to get into relationships.
Yeah, if any of your relationships have been conflictual with your creative path
Yeah.
and how you've navigated that.
Um, for sure, in a way. But though, at the time, I feel often like it's all conflictual. Um, but then, I mean, there's times along the way where you have to make a choice in your life, you know, where which path am I going to take? And sometimes relationships, the mutual, like what brings you together is not a livable thing for both, because you also are not both clear on what your path really is, you know, and what the other path is, you know, and that's where it gets really challenging. If you're like, you know, I think a lot of artists that I know, like really, really committed artists, people that just can't help it. Okay, like that, if the artist path in terms of like your profession, your expression, like how you spend the most amount of your time, like you can't help it if that's like what you're supposed to do. And many people though do get themselves into positions where they also have to veer away from that path. And I think there's a kind of romanticism sometimes around the path. What we don't have, we wish we had, kind of a thing, you know. But many people, also artists, get segued into having a family and focusing their artistic kind of like creative, their support into growing and supporting the growth of a child, right? And so many do that simultaneously as well, right? But for an example, like you can get sidetracked, of course, you know, but I think you end up coming back to it if you can't help it, you know, and
Yeah.
then you see how those relationships along the way help make you stronger in questioning that in yourself. And the ones that stick is because you have a common purpose, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and your common purpose is also, and both of you are at an elevated level of what your intention is and need for desire within a relationship, you know, and then there's a harmonious cohabitating, you know, where you're playing the same to the same groove and riffing off of each other, because that's what a good relationship is in my eyes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're invested and interested in conversation, in evolving, you're evolving together. So that's where a really great psychotechnology is so helpful in understanding this human existence, you know, understanding oneself, the relationship to the other. That's where, you know, a deep intimate relationship, you know, also a relationship with your family, your parents, you know, with your parents is where your first intimate relationship, where you're learning what it is to be a separate being,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then the love experience, like the eros, and the experience of that union with a partner is one aspect of love. And then the higher love is even higher, is learning the supernatural love, is that of agape. Right? That's the transcendental. And that's something that needs to be learned and needs to be studied and needs to be worked at. It's a supernatural love. You know, and to get to that, you need to realize that you're not, you're not trying to make somebody else different. You're not trying to be different. You're in full acceptance. But and we maybe know all this stuff, and when we're in it and experiencing it, it can be totally fucking like confusing, right?
Yeah.
But that's I think that's what this life's about, is this exploration and you know, going down all kinds of rabbit holes and having to learn like through experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Have you ever?
my heart's been broken quite a few times, and I've broken quite a few hearts as well along the way. And yeah, now that I just turned 42, you know, it's like, I think that happens, you know. I haven't had one consistent like partner along my life. I've had like a nice handful or more of really epic partners, and I'm proud to say that I'm friends with all of them, you know, and I adore all the time that I've spent with all the partners along the way. And you know, we'll always stay family, like in my heart.
That's beautiful. That's really the ideal, I think. I think the concept about like exes, or having to just completely cut somebody out of your life if there's a change of relationship, is, yeah, it's a little toxic, that idea and that paradigm. Have you ever read Eric Fromm's The Art of Loving? He's like he's like a philosopher who's also from Vienna, actually. And he wrote this really beautiful little book. And he talks about all those different things too, the many different aspects of love. So he talks about romantic love, brotherly love, the love of God, the love of friends, you know, and how it's how it's this you know, this large picture. It's like love isn't just this tiny narrow thing. But yeah, it's
I'm not familiar with it, but I would like to be.
yeah, check it out. It's beautiful. I think it's on YouTube. There's an audio
Will you
version of it.
tell me again what it is?
Eric Fromm, The Art of Loving.
From like OHM or AHM?
It's Fromm, I think.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I found it in like a used bookstore once and just loved it. Yeah, I wanted to pull back a bit before we got onto the conversation about relationships. You were talking about the importance of guiding other people, and that's something that I really see. You're an incontestable leader in the emergence of visionary culture, and I think that you could call somebody a leader just because of their skill in something, but you're really truly a leader in so much as you have created a path for other people to walk down. You've had many students, and you've had this experience of transmission from your teacher, Ernst Fuchs, and kind of passing this torch to you. And I'm curious, how much of that do you feel is this role that you're destined to take, to pass this torch down to other people?
I definitely feel that. I mean, I don't think I understood it at the time, like what was happening, you know, and what I was signing up for in many ways. Like I just kind of kept going with what seemed to be the most interesting, and I kept getting invited back. And I kept like witnessing things and being a part of things that I was just like, yeah, I don't think there's anywhere else in the world I'd rather be right now. I'm going to pay attention, you know. And as I continue to, you know, I guess, go along in life and the opportunities that arose. I didn't decide to start teaching. That wasn't something that I always wanted to do, but it kind of fell into my lap as I guess as a invitation. It came as first time I started teaching, I took on a student that was the way that I had been taught. And it was initiated by another family who had known what I had done for my studies, which was being an apprentice. Michael Fuchs took me on as an apprentice for 2 years, and he told me, he said he'd teach me everything he knew, and I would paint for him in return, and help clean his palette or his brushes, or do the thing that an apprentice would do. Like the old masters, that was really what he was interested in modeling after. And so I didn't do exactly the same thing, but it was an experiment in a similar way. It was this girl. She was 17. Her name is Susie Vrupka, and her parents had met me because I used to give tours at the Fuchs Museum in Austria. And that's how I met them. And I always had my portfolio with me to share, because I was a young artist and wanted feedback, and you never knew like who you were going to meet. Maybe you could get a portrait commission. I did a lot of portrait commissions in my early 20s, finding different ways to make money. And I've always had this philosophy to get paid to learn, like volunteer until you get paid to learn, and you just keep learning infinitely, and it's amazing, if you look at it from that perspective. And so I got paid to actually learn to teach too. I mean, it's something that you throw yourself into, and you're like, I think everybody needs to teach. This is actually a time right now where, I think we need to rise more as leaders. And this is where the participant, instead of being a spectator, to become a participant, and to really integrate something, right? You can hear something, right? It goes in, but then you need to tell it. You need to tell the story. You need to write it out. And then you also practice it, right? And then you need to teach it. And that's when you can then really embody it. So this is where I'm challenging a lot of the people that I've taught already, if have passed on the tools. I don't claim to that any of these techniques or things are mine. They've gone through the filter of my experience. So of course I share things in my own way, in my own words, and the way I put things together. But then as they're passed on, I mean, everybody's going to hear it differently, and everybody's going to apply it differently, right? So, and we all are attracted to different teachers and different ways of people explaining things, right? So, it's just a fractal. We're all fractaling. The information is a fractal. So I see it as something that needs to be given away, and that's something that can continue. I mean, that it makes sense to me, and so it's made sense to me in teaching that this experience, being in the workshop, is some of the most incredible moments of synchronization, of illumination, where I see it happening in a whole group, and it's happening because the whole group's together, right? Like we're all up leveling each other's capabilities, our ability to focus, our ability to become channels. And this because we've spent time in Italy together and in the workshop scenarios. It's freaking goes deep. Like, and there's something that's somewhat indescribable about it. It's something that it's like you kind of just have to be willing. It's the same thing with the artwork. When people ask, like, so how did this painting happen? How does this happen? Do you see this ahead of time? I'm sure you get this question all the time as well. And to me, I'm like, I have a sense sometimes. I have a feeling that is like this epic meta, like experience, vision, feeling. You know, if you're trying to transmit a vision, is kind of ridiculous, right? Especially when you start, you're like a cave person, like smearing pigments on like, you know, and that's literally what you're doing. But then it's like, okay, what I'm doing here, every mark matters. I can't press Control Z. I mean, it's freaking trippy, the actual material experience of painting, right? And then what can happen between that transmission that's coming out of here, like what can come out of this imagination, and not just what can you imagine, what can happen if you let that imagination go? Like that trips me out. That's where painting will never die. That's ridiculous, you know. It's like, because the human imagination it's never, it's not dead until I guess we're all gone or something. You know, we're going to constantly be producing things, and that the realm of what can happen even just in a two-dimensional plane, what can come through, you know. I think that's still, no matter how deep we go into VR and AR and all of that, there's still something with the traditional medium, you know, of the pen on paper, of some. But I know that like the expansion of all the mediums, like I can't really, is where we're going. You know, we're going to go as deep down that rabbit hole as possible. But the foundation, let's put it that way, the foundation is the drawing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's something just so immediate and visceral about having like a burnt stick and a piece of paper and being able to create infinite realities out of that. That's definitely, it's definitely a form of magic for sure.
And
But
especially, I think what's even more interesting with that is that when you release that, the control, and I challenge everybody on this, like get a burnt stick, piece of charcoal, and some paper, and smear it around. It's a very non-committal experience. And what can happen out of that, if you let go and you look into that, like into the smoke, you know, you look into the field and allow it to come through, you can experience, it's like what I would imagine if all of a sudden you sprouted wings on your back, you know. It's like that lucid dreaming experience that you talked about before. And there's a kind of also transmission and thing that happens that once you get the hang of it, and this is where practice comes in, you know, there can be, there's so many possibilities. And that's what keeps me interested.
Yeah, that's by far one of my favorite ways to make art, just to create some kind of random stimulus, like stains on a canvas or scribbles on a page, and then pull something out of that. And so often I'm surprised by the work that comes through. Like it wasn't something I ever saw before in my mind. You know, I didn't have any idea about what I was going to create before I created it. And then, you know, a few hours, a few days, a few weeks later, you have this like artwork, and it's like, where did that come from? You know, but you can just open your channel up to allow for these things to come through you. Have you read The Artist Way? Is that a book that you've worked with?
The Artist Way, I haven't worked with it in a long time, but I've definitely had it and have worked with it like 20 years ago and in between, you know, like I've had it since then for sure. And I think it's a useful thing. Yeah, very useful.
Well, it's really resonant with all the stuff that you're talking about. It's, you know, the fundamentals of the book is everybody's an artist. We're all creative. You know, we inherit these limiting beliefs from teachers, from parents, whatever, that, you know, put this block on our creative capacities and abilities and make us feel bad about ourselves. And so the whole book is about kind of going to the root of that stuff and then overcoming it. And also a major principle of the book is that no artist is really the creator of their artwork. That artists are essentially this channel, and there's the creative spirit that moves through. And so if you can create with that disidentification, then you create something beautiful, and it's like, wow, I got to witness this beautiful thing come through. But you're not like, oh, I made this beautiful painting. Or if you make something ugly, then it's like, okay, well, I don't really like that so much, but it wasn't me, and I don't have to beat myself up about it because it's not so much my creation. I was just participating in the creative act with the great creator to come through. So I think I just think it's a really, those ideas are really empowering for people. I really like the book and how it's structured. I've gone through the course a few times.
Yeah, I highly agree that it's something to recommend and to check out. And yeah, I think like the works too, when you do something and you're like, that's ugly, or that's something that like, that really agitates you, that is when you really need to pay attention in some way. Like maybe sometimes put it in the corner and not like give it all your attention, but that's when big lessons come up, of what propels you forward too, in a lot of ways, to solve problems. I think as an artist, you need to be curious and interested. You need to get off on solving problems, and exploring. You got to be an explorer. And that's where like things like the Artist's Way help you get through the blocks that are maybe holding you back from that exploration.
So we're kind of running out of time for this one. If you want, we can open up another chat and keep talking, but if you have to run, that's cool too.
I'm cool for it. We can talk a little bit longer for sure.
Cool. Yeah, there's definitely like lots of things I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Let's check out this question though. Somebody asked a question here. Oh, can we see details of that painting? Maybe after the chat I can show the painting behind me, or maybe they were asking that to you.
Both
We
of
can
our
both show our paintings too. Okay, cool, Amanda. I'm gonna end this one and start another live. We'll go right back on.
Why is there only limited time?
There's an hour limit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't do this very often. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see you in a sec.
Okay.
Hey, Isha. Amanda, is that you on the Vision Train account? Did you? Oh, there you are. Cool. It's 11:11.
Hi.
We're live at 11:11.
Oh, nice.
Perfect. Timing.
I think that was me. I was tuning in on the last one to the Vision Train, was I?
No, you're using your Amanda Sage account.
Oh, it's weird because it switched me over to the Vision Train, or how weird. I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me about the Vision Train. That's something that has been really activated lately. I know you've been talking about it for years, but it's cool to see it take this kind of like digital form.
Yeah, see the train's back there.
Cool.
The Vision Train in its current form. So the Vision Train left the station, the nonstop Vision Train Global Art Jam left the station on March 24th. It was the new moon. It was the first in Aries. And it was not on purpose. It just happened to be synchronistically like that. And it's a place that is that never goes dark. It's a studio that's nonstop. It's a nonstop train, yo. Like this thing you can get on it and you can get off it. And what it is it's a virtual studio, and it's a place where it's artists, mostly painters and various folks that are taking, different artists have taken the role of conductor and are taking the responsibility of keeping the train active and DJing music, bringing in special guests, sometimes having little demos, discussions, and then and a conductor's trip goes for about 6 hours, and then but they sometimes conductors share a trip, and then it gets passed to the next conductor. And so, because this movement, this movement of art, and you consider yourself a visionary artist or not, it doesn't matter, but is global, so there's tribe all over the world. And so that's how it's been able to stay alive, because there's always somebody on. And it's a creative space. It's a work space. It's a space to encourage each other, support each other, to create the best work you've ever created right now, because it's needed. Like we need a tidal wave of art. I think like it would benefit the world. It could benefit so many people, in encouraging us to get creative and also to paint the signposts for the future, just like Jim Shannon said. And we all have the capability to go deep, but sometimes we need the support system too. So I see it as a support system. And out of this nonstop train, we just did an express train, which was kind of like a presentation that Roman Villagrana just taught his 8 steps of synchronization. And we started also doing VT TV live, which is Vision Train, Telos Vision, where we have like studio artists and some people interviewing, and then also some music and jam session. I mean, we're experimenting with different formats, but the real vision around it so far has been to collect the crew that's already been on the train, that's heard me talking about it for years, and is ready to like activate it into the next level. And this means also to take leadership, to be not just a passenger on the train. No, let's be crew members. Let's be a part of, let's link our visions in together. They're all uniquely different. We all have a different kind of like way of describing it. But what, it's all about opening the field of potentiality and of windows into evolution, into solutionary perspective. At this time, like we can dwell and get sucked into the fear, right, which is an aspect of what's happening, or we can also turn our attention towards what do we really want, and how do we, and that's something that the artists can be descriptive of, and I think everybody can. That's where I have this project of the Vision Train Drawing Project, which I've been collecting train cars for the past couple years. I have collected over 1,000 of them, and they're people's their visions in a train car. Let me show you one.
Cool.
But yeah, I have like a little stack of them here that I had pulled out and I was showing people. But I want everybody, like, this is an invitation. This project, the Vision Train Drawing Project, is something that, like, I don't know if you've done one, Jake, but you better.
Okay.
All right.
Like these are people.
So it's a train car, and this started in my friend's 4th grade classroom in LA, and it's it's just an outline of a train car, and then on the back there's like a little write your vision in words, and then like share your name and your Instagram and stuff. This is from Sarah. This was done at Envision Festival. And it says, open my heart, shake my colors, expand, transformation, gratitude, positive impact, inspiration, growth, love, truth, joy. And so this is the declaration, right? So the invitation to draw your train card means like put your vision, put your, like, what do you want? Like focus on that, hold that in your heart, and then start to draw. And it doesn't even have to be a specific thing, but your feeling transmits through your brush and through your pencil into this container. And then I've been invited, I said, okay, I will take your container and I will take care of it and I will hook it into the others, right? And through that, we will create a momentum and a movement of the prayers of humanity, you know? And it can, and everybody's invited. Draw your vision
Wow.
on a train card. And then by writing it out, you get, you deepen that, you deepen your commitment to your vision. And then by sharing it, I've also invited quite a few people to share it, like to make a testimony, like a 1 minute, like, okay, so this is my train card, blah, 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 and by sharing that with your words too, and then giving it away, it becomes more possible, and
Yeah.
and it deepens your commitment to it. And it allows you to go deeper into, well, what is my prayer? Maybe you don't know when you start to draw your train card. So this is something you can go to visiontrain.org and you can download your template and you can print it out, or you can like digitally draw on it if that's how you do it too, and then, however, and then you can upload it again. So, and there's so many of them. I have, like, look at this one. This one, the train card didn't get printed out very well, but this is a little girl, I think 4th grade. This was in Watts. And she wrote, in my painting, I used an eye as a symbol of how I see the world in my eyes.
Wow.
I put the world in the background to set the picture on how the world is looking at me and saying, we can do those things to help.
Wow.
This one is, this is a little kid at this school the Life Project Education in Ojochal in Costa Rica. And this child wrote, this painting represents that everyone is different. And then, let's see, this one. No, this one.
Wow, that's beautiful. Cool.
So this one is by Nick DeAngelo, and he's radiate.indigo on Instagram. And he wrote, live in your heart and peace will spread.
Wow, awesome. I love that.
This one's great. This is Stefan Lucas Allen. And you can find him on Instagram too, Stefan with an F.Lucas.art. And he's an amazing artist. I'm sure you know his art.
I know Stefan. Yeah, I met him at a Zora festival.
Yeah. And so he wrote, a world in which astral traveling, lucid dreaming, animal communicating, and other things of the sort become/are completely normal things that every human has the chance to do and develop. The world gears towards entirely sustainable practices, eventually enabling humanity to travel amongst the stars in every dimension. The positive human potential of interdimensional diversity is fully unlocked.
Right on. Yeah. Why not? Cool.
Why not?
That's dope.
Right? This one's great. This one. I really
Is that a
like
carrot?
it. Yeah.
Riding a carrot?
This little guy riding a carrot. And this is by Elliot Brett. And he's Elio Brett on Instagram. And he wrote, "Flying a carrot towards a future of sustainable agriculture."
Cool.
Right?
Nice.
And then look at
So
this
are you
one.
going to piece them together like you're going to make a physical thing at some point that can be like exhibited somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have like 1,000 of them.
Whoa.
That I have not all scanned in, but this project is finally going to happen next week. Actually, they're going to get the local copy shop is going to help me scan them all in, and there's going to be like some videos, right? I want it to ultimately be something like that's just constantly going by. You can just have it on a screen and the train's just going by. I see an exhibit too of like a circular screen, kind of like around a room, and to see the train just constantly going by, and the train cars can be blending in and out, and I really want this project to go super, like to go everywhere. It could be in any school, it could be a project that anybody could do. So we need conductors to help, share the project and initiate it, because it's really actually nice to go with a group of people to kind of lead them through, like, a little bit like envisioning, maybe a little meditation, and then to all draw together, and then to kind of write together, and then to have a sharing circle. It's really important, and then to kind of do your little declaration. So it's good little workshops like this. And so I think it's something that like we can all get on board with. So if any of you listening, if you're into it, let me know, because I'd love to have you as a conductor. Look at this one.
Wow.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
And there's nothing written on the back, but she wrote her name, and I don't know if I've posted that one yet. There's an Instagram, Vision Train Vision Train. This one, Pay did this one.
So you have a gallery of these online?
Yeah, well, there's an Instagram account, the Vision Train. It's just Vision Train, at Vision Train.
Cool.
And this one, Peihan did this. She said, "My visionary future will be the humanity." She comes from Taiwan. She's adorable. She's a fantastic artist. Will be the humanity, that humanity has more sympathy with each other and the nature, and live in harmony with Earth, planet, plants, and animals in the universe.
Awesome.
And this is also something that my friend Lucian came up with. I mean, we use this on the train all the time. Like if we're like applauding, or we're saying yes to something, we go choo choo, and then we do this thing too. It's like boom boom choo choo, So it's like the heartbeat and the choo choo.
Nice.
This one is a really great. Check out this one.
Oh, it's like Van Gogh.
Right?
It's like Starry Night.
This is a kid from Watts, Los Angeles, which is south of Los Angeles, and it's like pretty tough area, right? Pretty, underprivileged. And this kid, Fabian is his name, writes, "I see a community sticking together through a bad weather."
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's super beautiful.
I
I've been
love
so
that.
impressed with little kids. Like this new generation of little kids are just so woke. It's crazy. Like they really got the consciousness upgrades.
Yeah, well, this is why we need, yeah, exactly. We need to listen to them. We need to highlight, we need to, interview them. We need to interview the kids and listen to them. Yeah, there's more kids on the train lately. There's more kids that are popping in, our friends' kids, and It's so important to listen to what they have to say and to include them in the conversation. Let them, and I love that you know, I don't have children myself, but I'm very connected with quite a few kids, and just to be straight up with them, and, you know, open and understanding, loving.
Yeah. To make it known that their voice matters too.
Yes.
Empower them with that, then that'll be something that carries on throughout their lives.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. This is something I really love about your work, because the word visionary just gets thrown around a lot, and sometimes it just means kind of like making trippy art. But your art genuinely expresses a vision. It's like something you want, like a vision of the world, you know, and that's a consistent theme in your work. What would you describe your vision as?
That's a good
What's
one.
your vision of the world?
So over the time, like, I don't have a specific vision, first of all, as a disclaimer. Like, I don't have I'm very careful. I've learned over time to be careful about the ideal, to be careful to, you know, the picture of utopia is also a dangerous thing, and is something that can actually be just as much of a distraction and a trick towards what seems to actually be going on, to the truth. Because the truth is that we are here right now, and this is a great mystery. There are certain truths that are like, yeah, I enjoy, you know, pleasant things, but are they a condition of, or should that be a condition, or is the condition of being on a planet one of contrast, one of constant learning, one of, you know? So this is a part of one of the things that I've learned through Joe Bob and his work of with the fourth way, is there's this what is it called? Oh, I'm spacing it right now, but this desire for pleasure rather than pain. It's and it's something that we have this conditioning around, an expectation of an ideal on all four levels of existence 100% of the time. And now I'm kind of spacing some of them, but it's like the physical, the emotional, the mental, and then the transcendental. Like, we want to have
Those are
pleasure.
kind of like the four different suits and tarot cards too. Like there's four suits, and they each connect with those different aspects.
Yeah, and so we think that things should be pleasurable and not painful 100% of the time, right? And there's like this longing, this desire, and we have like good, bad, right, kind of thing going on. And that is a big trap, right? That everything needs to be beautiful, everything needs to be nice, everything needs to be, you know, pleasurable, and not the other way. Whereas that, like, you know, the truth is that we live on a planet, and there is all of the above. There is pleasure and pain. And so we become free of that kind of, I guess, obsession of trying to create that, or constantly be seeking it. Once we realize that it's not the goal. You know, like, the goal to me right now, from what my life, as far as I've come, is to continue be supportive of the unfolding and the to create space where the exploration and the greater understanding of what's going on can be explored in a supportive, loving environment, a support, non-traumatic. And that's something that we can do the more understanding we have for this experience, And so I guess it's more of like if I paint a picture of where I want what I want, yes, it is more green than concrete. There's certain things that I do. Yeah, eating live food is much better for my body and feels much better than eating a lot of like dead processed food. There's certain very logical things but like everybody's just going to be happy and everything, nothing's going to, that's not that kind of utopia. I imagine the full spectrum having its place in a sense. There's so much judgment around how others need to be different than they should be. What if we just had more understanding and acceptance for the differences and allowed each other to be different with very common kind of like rules that are very basic in the sense of like, yeah, don't hurt each other. Like Burning Man has these principles that I think are very, very, that make a lot of sense. So there's something along those lines, and I think Burning Man, for an example, is one of the places where there's been great experimentation within culture, and community. And, has been a huge influence in my life, I think everybody that goes there, no matter what you walk away with something. And one thing is for sure, the experience of being in a city of, up to 90,000 people last year, of that where there's no trash cans anywhere and you can't buy anything, nobody's selling you anything besides, coffee and tea at center camp. And of course you have to buy a ticket to get in, but this is something that has been a big misunderstanding, I think, for a lot of folks that have also been like, oh, Burning Man's over, blah, 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 blah. Like you've heard that and read all those newspaper articles, etc. But yeah, there's an incredible training ground of personal responsibility when it just comes down to like your own waste, and radical expression, radical inclusion. Like there's all very, very interesting aspect of Burning Man that I think is interesting now to look forward, as this is the first year since the beginning where it's not going to happen physically. And that is huge in my eyes. I mean, when I found out that Burning Man wasn't going to happen this year because of the COVID mayhem, it was like, whoa, this is serious.
Yeah.
I mean, of course I knew it was serious before and had been taking it serious, but what this means culturally is very interesting. And it's forcing everyone to, I think, get more serious in a new way around what can we do actually when we focus our energies from building theme camps, and these crazy art projects to in a different way, maybe locally, which I think is actually really the way to go, to focus in our local tribes. And we're definitely going to be doing that here in this part of Colorado. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Burning Man can be really replicated virtually. It's just not the same to be on webcam or on Zoom with a bunch of people.
It's going to be different, but it's going to be epic too. This is what I've been discovering with this virtual, like getting online to get offline again. Like this is a chance for a planetary civilization to come together in a new way that is needed to make the shift. I think.
Yeah. 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 My friend Mark Lee got invited to create a virtual, like a VR Burning Man thing. So they're planning on going into VR and interacting with people in this multi-person setting where change makers can actually meet in a space and have an interaction that feels kind of like a real life interaction with people. And it's more of, it seems like this year is like a meeting of minds or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not sound camps and art cars, but it's still
Well,
a place for like change makers to gather and to be able to exchange ideas and stuff like that.
well, this is the time to do it. Like, there are so many great minds that are going to Burning Man. Like it's 0 degrees of separation for the connections to like pretty much every aspect and country and economically, all of the fields. Like, there's great innovators and that have been going to Burning Man, and it's just going to give everybody a chance to kind of like take what they've learned and also go deeper into what their commitments are and their contributions and their puzzle pieces to this great unfolding. That's where the train comes into for me. Like, it's the train is the connecting of all of these characters on a journey that celebrates the genius of humanity. It's the next biggest expo. It's the next biggest celebration, distraction maneuver. It's the arts that needs to do it. And through the arts is the back door. It always has been too. Because you have so many more liberations that, you have the liberty to express in the arts and to point out, to expose, right? And an image like speaks a million words, 1,000 words, whatever it is. What can we envision? What can we create? And also, what kind of platforms can we develop? And that's happening right now. And I know that I don't even know like a fraction of what's happening right now, which blows my mind and gets me super excited and reminds me I'm not alone, because it's not my idea. I'm just seeing a piece of the story, a part of the movie. And and that's what Stephen Brooks says all the time. He's like, yeah, we're seeing the same movie. Like a whole bunch of us are. We're not alone in this. Visions are not yours. Visions come to us if you're receptive to them, and they all come in a different way. But you have to make yourself like available. And often to get to that point of being available, a lot of times a crisis needs to happen. A personal
Absolutely.
crisis. It's in some way, shape, or form. But that opens you up, and that gives you the incentive to look for answers and to surrender. You need to surrender. You need to get down on your knees and be like, I need help.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we're going through collectively too. It's like this shamanic initiation for the whole planet.
Yeah.
Things collapsing and dissolving, and yeah, it has a lot of characteristics that are similar to the kind of traditional, hero's journey or like shamanic narrative.
Totally. And it's, I first felt this like in the first like couple weeks or week of quarantine. Like, I had just come off of this big tour, and I was really like, coming down from that experience, but at the same time, like feeling the reality of what was really happening planetary. And I could feel this like shedding of a skin, very much so from myself, but like this collective kind of, and the pain of it, like how painful it is when the freshness of the new skin is being exposed as well. you know, and like I find often like I get into these conversations and diving into like, you know, the exposure, the revealing, you know, that's what apocalypse means, is to reveal.
Yeah, the unveiling.
The unveiling. And so within that, it's kind of like, it's scary, it's intense. And I don't know about you, but my whole body starts shaking sometimes. Like I'm just like, and it's like my hands get a little clammy sometimes, or get really hot, or it's like the temperature swings. And this has been happening a lot on the train. There's different people that have been expressing this because of the kinds of conversations that we're having, you know, and the space that is being held by everyone, so that whenever somebody speaks, they're really supported too. You know, and there's something about speaking within a group, you know, and being able to share what's coming through. And this is what's also supporting each individual to create their work and to go deeper into their work, you know, because there's that part of it we have to do. We can think as much, we can stay in the first dimension of the creative visionary realm and just get off in there forever and talk. We can, you know, we can go till the cows come home. Like you guys are all hearting this because you all know it too, right? But like it gets the work of it is to bring it into the second dimension. You need to draw it out. You need to write it down. You need to like articulate it, and it gets harder. You know, it gets tougher the deeper you go into the evolution of a prayer. You know, like the gravity kicks in, resistance. This is the resistance. So a prayer is like a seed, you know, the idea, the intention. That's the first dimension. It's the field of potentiality. And then the second dimension is resistance. And resistance is like the pressure of the earth against the seed, right? Like if you put a seed on a plate and you give it water, it will sprout as well, but it won't grow into anything, right? It doesn't have the resistance against it. So think of that in terms of an idea. Like oftentimes you have an idea, and it's like, ooh, it's the ecstasy of revelation, right? And then it's like, okay, now we gotta like make it happen, do it. And that's when all the resistance comes up. And that's where most of us don't continue. Most ideas, you know, or they come back way later when you're ready to do the work. But then you go into the third dimension, it's even more difficult. You know, you want to build a house, you know, you first got to do the drawings, right? And then you got to actually build it. And then all kinds of new resistances come up, right? And then the fourth dimension is then the action of the prayer, which is then when the actual prayer is like you get to live in the house. You know, life is experienced within the house. The visions are, you know, you go back to the visions again. But there's this like, this is kind of like the four forces is what, how Jobab explains it, which also mirrors the medicine wheel. You know, it can be mirrored in so many, or the tarot. You know, and it's fascinating to look at all these different kind of systems and find clues. You know, it's references, you know, that makes sense, you know. And so I think the greatest teaching in the four forces is to remember that resistance, to remember its law, actually, right? That resistance is a part